are you? Come into the tree where dead men called out for his love to flee.
In just the past few weeks, multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West.
Madam President, the Majority Leader has said he plans to schedule a vote on President Biden's $106 billion request as soon as this week. He knows as well as I do that, as written, this proposal stands zero chance of becoming law.
The FBI Director Wray nor the President have any idea whether or not there is somebody from Hamas roaming around the United States of America who could strike this kind of deadly attack on our own country.
All right, you notice a pattern here. More and more governors, in fact, the governors of Oklahoma and Texas who were visiting Israel to warn us what's going on over there and the threat of terror over there is, in fact, likely to happen over here. Christopher Wray, the FBI director, saying as much just a few days earlier. Chris Wecker is the former FBI assistant director. Chris, good to have you. Are they right? Is it just a matter of time before we're dealing with what Israel's dealing with here?
Absolutely, Neil.
The strong opposition to the president's proposal is completely warranted, not for what it includes so much as for what it does not include. The supplemental is supposed to be all about national security, but it fails to deliver anything on one of the most urgent national security priorities, and that is the crisis at the southern border.
These cells in the United States, I mean, when I say cells, I mean Hezbollah and Hamas, but mostly Hezbollah, have been around for a long, long time, raising money, committing crimes and raising money for Hezbollah. Those cells could quickly morph into violent cells. And with the southern border being as open as it is, we have no idea who's in this country. So it's a combination of what's going on in the Middle East, as well as that wide open southern border. We got to have a couple hundred FBI agents on that border trying to determine who's coming in. We have completely negated all the security steps that we took after 9/11 to keep terrorists out of this country.
If you've been to a protest or have been paying attention to the news lately, there's a good chance you've heard this.
Defund the police.
Defund police departments.
Defund the police.
It's a rallying cry that has gained traction following the killing of George Floyd by police and the outbreak of global protests against anti-Black racism and police brutality.
The state of Washington has just enacted a dozen police reform laws following nearly a year of nationwide protest over police brutality.
Politicians were successful in moving away critical funds to police stations. And now what we are seeing across the country is violence surging right now in many areas. Just yesterday, I mean, we had politicians getting carjacked in some cities. So we are continuing to follow everything for you right here on Live Now from Fox. But let's break it all down on what some of these politicians are doing right now. After George Floyd's death at the hands of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in the summer of 2020 ignited a wave of protest across the country calling for major overhauls in the U.S. criminal justice system. The phrase defund the police not only became a rallying cry, but served as a litmus test separating moderates from the progressive left.
There is more fallout tonight, just days after Governor Pritzker signed a controversial bill into law that allows non-citizens to become full-fledged police officers.
A former Chicago mayoral candidate is threatening to challenge the law in the courts if it isn't repealed before taking effect January 1st.
Scott Schneider joins us now in the studio with more on that.
Yeah, Corey, you just mentioned Dr. Willie Wilson, who says this law stands in defiance of federal law when it comes to who can become a uniformed police officer or deputy in this country, while the bill's main sponsor insists the law is tailor-made for DACA recipients. Police officers here in Chicago and statewide have long been required to be citizens of the United States. With a sweep of his pen last week, Governor Pritzker changed that, as Illinois will soon allow non-citizens who are eligible to become members of law enforcement upon completion of training. State Rep Barbara Hernandez of Aurora led the charge to get the legislation passed.
The goal of the bill overall is to allow DACA and permanent residents that are already able to work in this country legally, apply to become police officers.
There are currently more than 30,000 DACA recipients living and working in Illinois, and unprecedented officer shortages statewide. But filling those vacant jobs with non-citizens is a non-starter for former Chicago mayoral candidate Dr. Willie Wilson.
I cannot go to China, no other country in the world, being a non-citizen and become a police officer. And I just think that's wrong.
Governor Pritzker speaking exclusively with Fox 32 last month on the challenges of finding new cops.
Some big cities say they are scrambling to find enough police officers.
It's something the CBS 2 investigators are tracking in Chicago, but we start with CBS 2's Christian Benavides reporting on how departments nationwide are struggling to keep enough officers on the streets.
In the midst of a crime wave, Stockton, California's police department was understaffed by 100 officers, and the community noticed.
Sometimes I see it one or two around, but that's kind of a rare occurrence.
New Orleans has had so much trouble recruiting officers, the city is hiring civilians to take on some of the work.
With the new year comes some new state laws, and tonight we're taking a closer look at Senate Bill 960. This law took effect at the start of the year, changing the qualifications to become a police officer here in California. Now, anyone who can legally work in the state under federal law can become a police officer, regardless of citizenship.
The Biden administration sent a signal that our borders are open to anyone who can show up at our borders, and that message has gotten through loud and clear.
Governor Pritzker recently signed more than 130 bills, and among the new laws, one allowing non-citizens to become police officers in Illinois.
Political reporter Scott Schneider live in studio with details on this. Scott.
Anthony Nelly, this law requires that immigrants be legally authorized to work under federal law. The bill's sponsor called it a natural progression now that some undocumented immigrants can become healthcare workers and military members. However, it's been highly criticized by Republicans and the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police.
First at 6, we've been hearing for years now about staffing shortages within the Portland Police Bureau and the effect it's having on police response. Several times, Police Chief Chuck Lavelle has indicated the Bureau is having trouble recruiting officers. But upon closer inspection, there's a lot more going on when it comes to the Bureau's hiring practices. Fox 12's Simon Gutierrez joins us now in studio to explain.
Yeah, Nora, it's no secret the Police Bureau has been understaffed, but it turns out that's not for a lack of interest in the job. In reality, the Police Bureau isn't having trouble attracting applicants, it's having trouble hiring them.
Well, hundreds of bills are awaiting Governor Pritzker's signature over the next few months, and among them is House Bill 3751. That would allow non-citizens to become police officers here in Illinois. Representative Barbara Hernandez from Aurora is the sponsor of the bill, and she joins us now live. Representative, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So this is something that you've been working on for a while here, and as I read it, it involves any immigrant who is here legally, maybe people who are DACA recipients. Tell us how this essentially works.
Yeah, so California has a similar bill for DACA recipients. They're a different level of undocumented individuals. DACA recipients are approved federally to work in the United States, in this country. Therefore, they're able to have different types of jobs that maybe in the past they couldn't because of their legal status. But there's some jobs that actually need our work for legislation. And therefore, one of them being of the police.
I'd like to say to all the witnesses, the GAO noted last year that the Pentagon is facing the most challenging recruitment environment in 50 years. The Army, for example, has especially struggled to meet recruitment goals. The service missed its in-strength number by 15,000 or 25% in fiscal year 2022. I'm about to say something that is a secret. It's not classified, but I'm going to share it with you. We have 780,000 DACA recipients, people who are protected under DACA, many of whom want to serve this country where they grew up. There's an obstacle, Congress. We have not given them a pathway to citizenship.
Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the